championship. I think it's crazy, but they have a lot of vets that I can learn from, and they're winners. Everybody on that team likes to win, and I think that's what makes that team special. So to go to a program like that has the same mentality as me of winning is phenomenal.
Raven, we're going to switch sides. We're going to go to the left side of the room, row 2.
She is a leader. She's a competitor on one of the greatest programs in college basketball.
One of the most talked about rivalries in women's college basketball just became one of the most anticipated partnerships in the WNBA. And the person at the center of it all could not be more fired up about it. When the Indiana Fever called Raven Johnson's name with the 10th overall pick in the 2026 WNBA draft, the basketball world immediately went back in time. Back to a viral moment that almost broke her. Back to a wave of a hand that sent her spiraling into one of the darkest stretches of her life. And now, those two players who stood on opposite sides of the biggest stage in women's college basketball are about to share a locker room, a practice court, and a genuine shot at a championship. The full story of how they got here and what Johnson said the moment she found out is something nobody saw coming. To understand just how wild this reunion is, you have to start at the beginning of Raven Johnson's story, because it is not the story most casual fans think they know. Johnson was rated a 5-star recruit, the number 2 player and the top point guard in the class of 2021 by ESPN. Wikipedia. She was a McDonald's All-American. She had won 4 straight state high school titles. She was the first woman ever to play in a men's All-American game at the 2021 Iverson Classic. Wikipedia. This was not a prospect who arrived at South Carolina hoping to contribute. This was someone expected to immediately change a program. But almost immediately, everything went sideways. Johnson tore her ACL just 2 games into her first season with the Gamecocks, sidelining her for virtually the entire year. ABC News 4. She sat and watched her teammates go on to win the national championship without her on the floor. For a player with her competitive drive, that had to be excruciating. Despite her absence, her team won the national championship that year, Wikipedia, and she had to watch it happen from the bench, a title she had dreamed about since she committed to Dawn Staley but couldn't actively help earn. That combination of extreme early hype, immediate catastrophic injury, and watching others get the glory while you're sidelined is a mental test that breaks a lot of athletes. For Johnson, it turned out to be the beginning of something much bigger. She came back the following season as a key reserve and slowly began to earn her role. As a freshman, she averaged 4.2 points, 3.4 assists, and 2.6 rebounds per game, while earning all SEC freshman honors, Yahoo Sports. Numbers that sound modest, but told a more detailed story about a player building trust with one of the most demanding coaches in the sport. Dawn Staley doesn't hand minutes to players who haven't earned them. Every step Johnson took at South Carolina was scrutinized, developed, and shaped by a coach who pushed her point guards harder than anyone else on the roster. And then came the moment that changed everything. Not in a good way, not at first. On March 31st, 2023, Iowa and South Carolina met in the Final Four in Dallas. The Hawkeyes won 77-73. Caitlin Clark dropped 41 points, 8 rebounds, and 8 assists. Dallas life. In the middle of that performance, and there was one specific play, maybe 15 seconds of basketball, that went viral and followed Raven Johnson for the next 3 years of her life. Johnson dribbled the ball to the 3-point line. Clark, who was supposed to be guarding her, looked at her, raised her hand, and waved her off, flat out refusing to guard her, daring her to shoot. Johnson was shooting just 24% from 3 at that point in the season, and Clark knew it. Yahoo Sports. The clip got clipped, shared, stitched, commented on, and turned into a meme that circulated across every platform. On the surface, it looked like one star embarrassing another. But what happened to Johnson off the court in the aftermath of that moment was genuinely disturbing. On the I Am Athlete podcast, Johnson opened up about what followed. I got bashed. I got bullied. I got called all these things that I wasn't. I wanted to quit basketball at that time and go in this little bubble of isolation and just be by myself. I just leaned on God. I had some wonderful teammates and they helped me find that light. And it put so much fuel to the fire for me to go back for the next year, and we went undefeated and met that team again and we beat them. Sports Illustrated. The abuse she received was not just basketball criticism. She described being called racial slurs and dehumanizing things that had nothing to do with basketball. Fox News. She said she lost herself. She said there were days she did not want to eat or walk out of her room. That moment with Clark took over everything. It took over my body. It took over my mind. And I didn't know who I was. Yahoo Sports, she said. A 20-year-old athlete at one of the most celebrated programs in the country almost quit the sport she had devoted her entire life to because of what the internet did with 15 seconds of a basketball game. What happened next is the kind of thing that makes sports genuinely compelling when you look past the scores and the highlights. Johnson did not quit. She did not transfer. She did not shrink. She went into the gym and she started working on the exact thing that had been used to humiliate her. In the 2024 National Championship game, Clark praised Johnson before the contest for her evolution, saying, "She got in the gym and she got better, and I admire that. I think that's what makes great players great, and that's exactly what she did." Yahoo Sports. Then the game was played. So South Carolina beat Iowa 87-75 to complete a 38-0 undefeated season. In the second quarter, Dawn Staley switched Johnson onto Clark directly. With Johnson as the primary defender, Clark made just 5 of 20 shots and committed 4 turnovers. Yahoo Sports. The player, who had been waived off 1 year earlier, was now the person who changed the flow of the game by guarding the best offensive player in the history of college women's basketball. Clark still scored 30 points overall, but the shift was undeniable, and so was the message Johnson was sending. She had taken the most embarrassing moment of her career and used it as the blueprint for exactly what she needed to become. That is not just a sports story, that is a story about character. No, and the character that story reveals is exactly why the Indiana Fever wanted Raven Johnson in the first place. Johnson said after the draft that she was genuinely surprised to hear her name called so early in the night. "I did not think I was going to get my name called, I'm going to be honest. I was like, why are these cameras coming in my face? But when they called my name, I was like, me? At all. I thought I would have been a lower pick, honestly." YS News 10. That reaction, genuine, unfiltered, almost disbelieving, says a lot about a player who spent 5 years at South Carolina earning everything she got rather than assuming it. Fever. Amber Cox was emphatic in the post-draft press conference. She's a leader. She's a competitor from one of the greatest programs in college basketball, and she's won at the highest level. We were just so pumped when she was available at number 10. Ballast Life head coach Stephanie White added, "She's won at every level. She's set the tone at every level. She's immediately ready on the defensive end of the floor. She's experienced in big-time moments. Really excited that she fell to us." Ballast Life. 2 of the most important decision-makers in Indiana's franchise talking about a 10th overall pick, like they just got a lottery steal, tells you everything about how highly this player is valued. So what exactly does Raven Johnson bring to this Fever team that already has Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell, Aaliyah Boston, and Lexi Hull? The answer is layered. Start with the numbers from her final season at South Carolina. Johnson averaged 10.3 points per game on 50.6% shooting, handed out 5.4 assists per game, and ranked 4th in the nation with a 3.41 assist-to-turnover ratio. South Carolina Athletics. She shot nearly 40% from 3. She was named SEC Defensive Player of the Year. But stats only tell part of the story with Johnson. Her wingspan and ability to switch defensively and guard multiple positions may be her greatest assets at the professional level. Her defensive intensity is described as a tone setter. The score. In a league where teams spend entire playoff series trying to figure out how to stop a hot shooter, having a guard who can be deployed as the assignment defender on the opposing team's best perimeter threat without sacrificing anything on the offensive end is a genuine chess piece. Johnson is not a luxury. She is a specific tool that Indiana has needed and did not fully have. And the woman sitting across from her in the Indiana backcourt noticed that immediately. When reporters and media asked Johnson which teammate she was most excited to play with after the draft, she did not hesitate for a single second. Johnson immediately said, "Caitlin Clark, Caitlin Clark." When pressed on what specifically it was about Clark, she explained, "She is a phenomenal player. I mean, with the things she does, it's bar standard. She can shoot the ball, can lead a team, and they win. Like, she has a winning mentality, and I think that's the biggest thing." Sports Illustrated. The interviewer pointed out that Johnson herself is known for exactly that, a winning mentality, and Johnson said simply, "Yep, exactly." That exchange, short as it was, captured something real. These are two players who are wired the same way. You both had massive moments on the national stage before they were 21 years old. Both have dealt with levels of public scrutiny that most professional athletes never face. Both have been defined by how they respond to adversity rather than how they perform when everything is going perfectly. The connection is not manufactured for a press conference. It is rooted in a shared experience of competing at the absolute highest level and carrying the weight of public opinion at the same time. Aaliyah Boston, who played alongside Johnson at South Carolina for 2 seasons before being drafted first overall by the Fever in 2023, weighed in on the Clark and Johnson dynamic with characteristic calm. "I think it's going to be fine. It literally doesn't matter." Sports Illustrated Boston went on to draw a parallel to her own experience when Clark was drafted by Indiana, and she had to reckon with becoming teammates with the player who had dropped 40 points on her team to end her college career at the 2023 Final Four. Boston said, "Even when Caitlin came, and that year when they beat us in the Final Four, it was actually kind of funny because I was like, wow, am I really about to be teammates? And like, you dropped 40 on our heads." Sports Illustrated. The fact that Boston went from that incredulity in 2024 to becoming one of Clark's most important on-court partners tells you everything about how that locker room operates. The Fever culture, under Stephanie White, appears to be one where competitive history between players gets converted into fuel rather than friction. Johnson walking into that building already has that precedent set for her. The Boston reunion in particular adds a layer to this story that pure basketball analysis would miss. Johnson spoke about Boston in terms that go well beyond basketball. "She has taught me so much through my college experience. She taught me what pro habits were. She taught me that you have to bring those habits every day to practice. Not just in basketball. Just being a great human being. I think that goes a long way." WIS News. 10. Boston won Rookie of the Year in 2023 and has become one of the WNBA's most reliable two-way players in the 3 seasons since. She already knows how Johnson moves, how Johnson communicates, and how Johnson leads, because she watched it every single day at South Carolina. That pre-existing understanding between a center and a point guard in a half-court offense is not something most teams get to build from day one. Indiana does not need to teach Boston and Johnson how to play together. They just need to add Clark, Mitchell, Hull, and the rest of the roster around a foundation that already exists. Johnson described how Aaliyah Boston instilled pro habits into her at South Carolina, and how she has since tried to pass those same habits down to the younger Gamecocks. A cycle of mentorship that she is now bringing directly into the professional locker room. ABC News 4. There is also a competitive dimension to the Clark-Johnson dynamic that coaches love, but rarely get to engineer. Coach Stephanie White noted after the draft that having Johnson in the rotation creates the possibility of deploying a defensive lineup with Tyasha Harris and Johnson together, a look that would give opposing offenses a completely different problem to solve. Sports Illustrated. But in practice, having Raven Johnson running against Caitlin Clark every single day in preparation sessions is one of the best things that could happen for Clark's own game. If you want to sharpen the best offensive point guard in the league, you put the SEC Defensive Player of the Year on her every day and see what adjustments have to be made. The competition in practice elevates both players. Moran, given that Clark missed the entire 2025 postseason with an injury and is returning for her 3rd WNBA season, hungry to prove the ceiling that everyone glimpsed in her first year. Having a daily defensive challenge from a player of Johnson's caliber is exactly the environment that accelerates elite development. Johnson was asked what she thinks she brings to the Fever team, and she gave the clearest possible answer. "They have a lot of vets that I can learn from, and they're winners. Everybody on that team likes to win. And I think that's what makes that team special. WIS News 10. And then came the quote that should be hanging in the Gainbridge Fieldhouse weight room. Aaliyah Boston, Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell. I think I'll learn a lot from them. I'm going to be a sponge. I'm probably going to be a gnat too. Because I'm going to ask them a lot of questions. Athlon Sports. That combination of humility and relentless curiosity, describing herself as both a sponge and a gnat, because she intends to absorb everything and refuse to leave anyone alone until she understands it, is the mentality that has defined every step of her career since she tore her ACL on the second game of her college career and chose to come back stronger instead of quieter. Johnson herself summed up the situation the most directly after the draft. You're talking about a team that could possibly win the championship. Ballast life. Not, I'm excited to be here. Or, I'm just trying to contribute wherever I can. She walked in already believing Indiana is a title team, and already seeing herself as part of the reason they get there. That kind of confidence from a rookie is not arrogance when it comes from someone with Johnson's resume. She was a two-time NCAA champion, a WBCA All-American, and the SEC Defensive Player of the Year. And she set program records at South Carolina in most assists and most steals in career NCAA tournament games. Sports Illustrated. She has been to the Final Four in all 5 of her college seasons, missing the 2022 tournament due to her ACL injury but winning a title that year anyway with her team. She has never been on a team that did not compete at the highest level. She does not know any other way to operate. The wave-off moment from 2023 that sent her into isolation and almost cost the basketball world one of its most compelling players ended up being, in her own words, the fuel she needed. The bully became the blueprint, or the humiliation became the homework, and now the two players at the center of that viral clip, one who waved off the other like she wasn't worth defending, are about to spend an entire season figuring out how to win together. Raven Johnson said she wants to be a sponge. She said she wants to be a gnat. She said she'll ask every question until she understands everything. And the player she is most excited to learn from, to compete alongside, and to finally share the same jersey with is the exact person who once told the world she wasn't a threat. The story is not just good because of the drama. It is good because of what came after the drama, and what might be about to happen next.